we're going to do roasted potatoes with cinnamon. Now I've got about 1.5 pounds of Yukon Gold potatoes. You could use other red potatoes as well, or other types of gold potatoes. And I'm going to be cooking in a cast iron skillet. You could use also any other type of very heavy skillet would also work equally well. Now to that I'm going to add 6 cloves of garlic. So this is going to be well seasoned. And a little bit of something that's a little unusual, which is how it got its name. I've got 1 cinnamon stick here that I've broken into about 3 pieces. I want to keep them big enough because I want to be able to fish out the sticks. Your body's not going to be able to break those down, and your teeth may get broken in alternatives, so we want to be able to pull those out before we actually serve. Also, I've got 3 tablespoons of extra virgin olive oil. And I'm using that type of oil today because I want the flavor that comes from that type of oil as opposed to a milder flavor. Also going to add 1/2 teaspoon of black pepper. And this one, if you're a little concerned about the amount of pepper going in here, you could always hold off on part of that until it gets at the end, and then you could sprinkle on that last bit. But I've done this one before and I like that amount. I've also got 1 teaspoon of coarse salt. My oven is preheated to 325. And we're going to stir these together, and I'm going to hold off on a little bit of the salt just for that same reason that I mentioned earlier with the pepper. We want to stir everything together here and make sure everything is well coated with oil. That's going to raise the temperature and start to enable us to get a little bit of crispiness to this. Now you'll notice that the garlic is not peeled, and that's a time saver for one thing. This is also something we're going to fish out later. We're going to put this in the oven at 325, and then we're going to, after about 1 hour and 15 minutes, we're going to take that out of the oven, and we're going to take the garlic out before we put it back in at a little bit higher temperature. So we don't need to peel it in order to get the flavor for that. This is, again, going to go in at 325, at about 1 hour and 15 minutes until it's fork tender. And that's going to vary a lot depending on how big you cut the potato chunks. Mine are somewhere 1.5 inch chunks. If you cut them larger, cut them smaller, you have a different variety of potatoes. So after about 60 minutes or so, you need to start going in there and piercing them and making sure that they haven't already got to the point where they need to be so that you don't overcook them at that point. I have one already in the oven, so let's go get that one out. And as you can see, this skillet's a little bit differently. Cast iron works great for this kind of a project, as does this skillet. But cast iron is particularly nice because it is nice and heavy, transfers heat nice and slowly. At this point, we want to fish out those garlic cloves. Now the reason we're doing this is because we're going to put the oven now at 450, and they just get scorched if we're doing that. So we want to take them out, and you can in fact squeeze the garlic out of here, and it's great tasting garlic. You could use it on bread. Should have one more in there, I think. There were 6 to start with, although I don't see the other one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There it is, hiding underneath. Now, as I said, we're going to turn the oven up, and we're going to roast this at a higher temperature. And I've got 2 ovens, so I'm going to go ahead. The cinnamon sticks can stay in, or the cinnamon stick can stay in at this point. It adds a little bit more flavor, but we do want to take it out before you actually serve so that no one bites into it. Again, at 450, and we're going to leave this in about 15 minutes. And again, we're going to stir this partway through the cooking process as well, because you want to start crisping it up. That's the reason for we're putting it in at the higher temperature. We're going to try and crisp it up on some of the sides. So stirring it exposes more sides to the pan itself, which gives it more crispness all the way around. This recipe actually is following one of the real hot trends right now as far as the food world is concerned, using a spice or that we usually associate with sweet things in a savory manner. So we're right on trend. Now make sure, whether you're using cast iron or whatever, that you're using oven mitts, pot holders, something to get these out, because this has been in the oven at 450 degrees and the handles get very, very hot as that happens. Let me go grab my spatula over here. Now, as I said, this is going to crisp up somewhat, and you can see that that's happened. It's absolutely beautiful. It's got that great smell. Primarily, you're going to pick up the garlic smell, but you're also going to be able to pick up some of that cinnamon aroma as well, and it's just a terrific thing. And see if I can get that one to come off here. I don't want to have cinnamon sticks in it. If you leave them in bigger pieces, it's sort of a conundrum. You leave them in bigger pieces and they're easier to get out, but it doesn't get quite as much cinnamon flavor out of it as well. So you're going to have to decide how you want to approach that one. I tended to break this one up a little bit more than I have on some in the past. This is really a nice side dish. I think if you give this one a try, you're really going to like it. It's roasted potatoes with cinnamon. Just going to sprinkle a little bit of parsley over it just to give it a little bit more color. Again, roasted potatoes with cinnamon, great during the holidays or anytime during the winter. For Oklahoma Gardening, I'm Barbara Brown.